Today we're going to talk a little bit about alarms and web control. An alarm is nothing more than a message sent from a control program indicating that there's a condition that may need to be addressed by the user. So notice we're on the first floor of the Georgia building, the Prestige Corporation. If I choose the Alarms button, it's going to take me to the Alarms view in Web Control. And right away I notice several things. First of all, I have a list of alarms in front of me. Okay, and I notice that I have the latest alarm at the bottom. I see that there's different icons indicating different things. Categories. So for instance, this alarm happens to be in the HVAC general category. This icon happens to be in the HVAC maintenance category. I know that because there's a little lowercase I next to it. So the point is, different icons indicate different categories. I can also filter by categories. So for instance, if I only would like to see the HVAC maintenance alarms, I can click on the category HVAC maintenance. The same thing holds true for HVAC general, fire system, etc. I can also view by date. So notice I have the earliest alarm at the top, the latest alarm at the bottom. I can also filter by to do. So for instance, all alarms that have an action required to close them will be listed. All of these need to be acknowledged before they can be closed. An operator needs to basically tell Web Control, I have seen these alarms and I am acknowledging them. And finally, we have alarms viewed by incident group. These are alarms that come from the same point or alarm. Typically, you'll see an alarm come in and then an acknowledgement, or an alarm come in and then a return to normal. So for instance, these two are grouped together because they came from the same source. Now, alarms are hierarchical in nature. What do I mean by that? If we look at this view on the first floor, we see all alarms from the first floor and below. However, if I move to Prestige Corporation, we're going to see a lot more alarms. That's because the Prestige Corporation view has all of the alarms in the system. Georgia would have all of the alarms from Georgia and below, etc., etc. So here's an example of some different categories. Here we see access control critical. A red exclamation point indicates critical. We see another maintenance alarm and another general alarm. Check the help files to see what the different icons mean. Now, what should we do with these particular alarms? Well, first of all, let's get some more detail on it. I've double-clicked on the alarm, and I see that it's come in from the HVAC general category. It was normal, and it's giving me some detail. The zone temperature is too warm. I see the location, and I see the actual alarm source itself. If I'd like, I can go ahead and click on that link, and it will take me to the area where the alarm is coming in from. And right away, I can see, in fact, I am in alarm. The reason for that is the temperature is 76 degrees, and my temperature set point is 73 to 75 for the orange band. In other words, this is sending an alarm saying it's way too hot in the system. I'm simply going to move my set points back to a more reasonable level, choose OK, and we should notice a couple things. First of all, if you were looking earlier, you'd notice this was red, indicating it was an alarm condition. It's since moved to green. If I check the alarm, I'm going to see that the zone temperature has returned to normal. To further illustrate what the incident groups do, we'll see here was the high temperature alarm, and here was the return to normal. Notice that they are bracketed when we look at incident groups. Well, what other things can we do with alarms? Well, first of all, we can acknowledge them. And I've simply highlighted an alarm and I've clicked acknowledge. Now when I filter by to do, that particular alarm will not be available to me. Okay? We can delete alarms. So for instance, let's say I want to delete a particular alarm. I can do so. In cases we can force a return to normal for particular alarms. So I'm going to go ahead and force a return to normal for that particular maintenance alarm, and you'll see it come in. It is associated with the same source as the top one, so as I go to incident group, I will now see them moved together. And then finally, we have an additional actions button. This is where I can do things like manage groups of alarms and view certain ranges of alarms. So for instance, I could acknowledge all of my alarms, or I could delete all of my alarms or just the closed alarms. Finally, I can view by date. The reason that you might want to delete all of your alarms is that the alarm database could get unusually large if you never manage them. Alarms are not really used to keep historical track or records of things that happen in the database and the system. You should use trends for that. Alarms are simply to notify the operator that there's a condition they may need to address. Now, if you have further questions about alarms, please refer to the help files or some of our more advanced videos.